The Louisiana Purchase.
Thomas Jefferson was truly a remarkable man. He accomplished so much in his presidency. For one, he doubled the size of our nation with the Louisiana Purchase. Now remember, the last time we discussed the Louisiana Territory was right after the French and Indian War. The French lost all of their claim on land in North America except that tiny little half of an island known as Haiti. This stayed true for years until Spain made a secret little deal with France and sold the Louisiana Territory back to them.
The French Revolution eventually ended when Napoleon came to power, so the republic failed for the time being. Napoleon was an emperor who wanted to rule the world. However, he began losing his hold in North America. You see, the Haitians decided to rebel against the harsh French rule of their half of the island. Napoleon desperately needed this island as a stop on his way to North America. Napoleon was also trying to fight against the British in other areas. His troops were spread too thin for him to send any additional troops to Haiti or even to the Louisiana Territory.
The French national anthem. New Orleans was extremely important to Americans. By 1800, over 1 million Americans lived between the Appalachian Mountains and the Mississippi River. All of these settlers shipped their goods down the Mississippi River and out through the port of New Orleans. Remember, this is the fastest method of getting goods to market. Jefferson wanted to protect Americans' access to New Orleans. Remember, under Spanish control, Americans had been denied access to New Orleans on several occasions until Pinckney's Treaty. Jefferson didn't want to take any more chances.
His solution was to purchase New Orleans from Napoleon. Jefferson sends his Secretary of State, James Madison, and Robert Livingston to France to negotiate the purchase of New Orleans for a mere $10 million. $10 million, that's a lot of money today. Imagine back then. This should demonstrate to you how truly important New Orleans was to America. I don't know why I said it that way.
Madison and Livingston were stunned when Napoleon turned them down and instead countered their offer. When he countered their offer by suggesting that they buy all of Louisiana Territory for a mere $15 million. You see, he needed the money for his wars in Europe and can't spare any more troops. Napoleon also thought this would make America a bigger threat to Britain in North America, which he also loved. So, for only $5 million more, they could get all that land. Livingston and Madison were like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Congress only approved for $10 million. Madison and Livingston decided to go for it. It wasn't like they could pick up the telephone and ask Congress and Jefferson what they should do. Thankfully, Congress and Jefferson both supported their decision.
However, Jefferson, being the strict interpretationist of the Constitution, didn't really think that the Constitution gave him... Did I say it right?
I made up a new one.
Oh, yeah, okay. I like it. And I just read and I went with it. Didn't really... Okay, so let me start again. And I just want to say as a little side note here, Miss Bradley's getting frustrated with me because I keep going off script and saying stuff that she has later in the script. So I just wanted you to know that. So here, back to the thing. However, Jefferson, being the strict interpretationist of the Constitution, didn't really think that the Constitution gave him the power to purchase the land. Thankfully, Madison and Livingston helped him accept that the purchase could be structured as a treaty. And on October 20th, 1803, the Senate approved the treaty.
Remember how you don't have to memorize every year that we discuss this year in history? Well, this is one of those few that you do need to have ingrained in your brain. Did you like the rhyme? Anyways, let's say it together. Louisiana Purchase was in 1803. And let's add that it doubled the size of America.
Let's say it again.
Louisiana Purchase was in 1803. And it doubled the size of America. I don't know why it keeps messing up, but it's making me mad. Now, Jefferson's question became, what in the world did we just buy? His scientific side was also calling out to him. Jefferson loved to study all kinds of science and perform different experiments. He had a real passion for learning. And now, he wanted to learn everything he possibly could about this new territory.
Jefferson decides to organize an expedition to this new territory. He decides Meriwether Lewis, an aide to Jefferson, should lead the expedition. Lewis, in turn, decides to invite his army captain, William Clark, on the expedition. In fact, Lewis made sure that Clark was listed as his partner and received all the same pay and benefits Lewis did.
It took over a year of preparation to ready for the expedition. Lewis took several classes in a variety of sciences to help him on the expedition, from botany, the study of plants, to geography, the study of land, and many more. Eventually, the adventure began in May of 1804 from St. Louis, Missouri. Lewis and Clark and their men traveled north up the Missouri River, and crossed the Rocky Mountains, and traveled down the Columbia River to the Pacific Ocean. After almost 3 years, Lewis and Clark returned.
Lewis took very detailed notes about animals, plants, Native American tribes, rivers, etc. Clark focused more on mapping out the area. Throughout their expedition, they sent men back with samples and word of what they had discovered. They sent back some live animals to Jefferson at the White House: grizzly bear cubs, prairie dogs, and many more. Native Americans were informed along the journey that their land was now part of America, and Jefferson was their new leader. For the most part, relationships with natives were peaceful, and they proved to be more helpful to Lewis and Clark along the way. They proved to be most helpful. In fact, without the help of Sacagawea, a 16-year-old Native American girl, the expedition would have probably failed.
Besides mapping this new area and discovering new resources, Lewis and Clark hoped to find a water route to the Pacific. This was not to be. Instead, the Great Rocky Mountains stood in between the Missouri River and the Pacific Ocean. However, their expedition was considered a success and helped pave the way for westward expansion.
Okay. Pike's Peak.
It's not Pike's Peak.
Pike's Expedition.
It's exploration.
Oh, Pike's Exploration.
Zebulon Pike was sent to the southern part of the Louisiana Territory. He was ordered to find the source of the Red River, which led him into Spanish territory. Well, the Spanish weren't too excited about Pike showing up in their territory. In fact, they arrested him as a spy. Thankfully, Pike was able to talk his way out of it and eventually released.
Pike's Peak in Colorado, the highest peak in the lower 48, is named for Zebulon Pike. All right, our last slide, maybe. Okay, war and conflict.
Although Jefferson followed Washington's advice of keeping us out of war, other countries took advantage of that position. Pirates, for one. You know you can never trust a pirate. Barbary pirates were especially a nuisance for American trade ships.
The Barbary Coast is off the coast of Africa on the border of the Mediterranean Sea. And they promised to stop attacking our ships if we paid them bribes. Can you imagine? And again, who is to trust that they just won't ask for more bribes in the future? Again, you can't trust a pirate. Anyway, America smartened up and refused to pay the bribes, and instead sent our Navy to protect our merchant ships. That put an end to our pirating problems.
However, we are still dealing with troubles on the high seas, this time from two familiar foes, Britain and France. You see, they were both still at war with each other and didn't appreciate that we continued to trade with each of them. Does that make sense? Britain didn't want us to trade with France, and France didn't want us to trade with Britain. So they both attacked our ships. What nerve!
They were completely ignoring our neutrality proclamation. To make matters worse, Britain was also impressing our sailors. This meant that once they attacked our ships, they would force all sailors to board their ships and become sailors for the British. That's slavery. To force one into work.
Jefferson decided it was time to take drastic measures against Britain and France. With the help of Congress, he passed the Embargo Act of 1807. The Embargo Act banned trade with all foreign nations. So in other words, America stopped trading with the world. We weren't buying or selling goods with anyone. Jefferson hoped this would hurt the British and the French so much that they would stop attacking our ships. However, it ended up hurting American merchants more. By cutting off trade with everyone, merchants lost too much money. It was so bad that some were even going out of business. This was very unpopular. Let's review your blanks. Embargo Act of 1807 banned trade with all foreign nations. Embargo, in general, is just a refusal to buy or sell goods to and from a country. And then down here it should be stop attacking our ships. Here, hurt American merchants. Did you like my little cute animation? Okay. All right, go ahead and laugh at the title, Non-Intercourse Act of 1809. I know, it's hysterical. Thankfully, Jefferson and Congress realized the error of their ways and replaced the Embargo Act with the Non-Intercourse Act. I know, laugh again. This was a limited embargo and only banned trade with Britain and France. This also made it very clear to Britain and France that the trade would begin again when the attacks on ships stopped. Opening up trade with the rest of the world again, merchants keep trade going and compensate for not trading with Britain and France. We still use embargoes today against a variety of countries for a variety of reasons. For instance, we have a trade embargo against Cuba. Ever since Fidel Castro came to power in 1959 and created a communist-controlled government, America has stopped all trade. In fact, you cannot find a direct flight to Cuba from America. Not to say that you can't fly there, but it's looked down upon. If you did go to Cuba, you would find that several of the automobiles are American-made. However, they are from the 1950s. Only the wealthy in Cuba, which is very few, have been able to afford to have nicer vehicles shipped in. Now, it's not just because he is Cuban, he also doesn't treat his citizens very well. This is why so many Cubans have fled to America. I believe in our lifetime, we will see a major change in Cuba. Fidel Castro is getting quite old. At some point, I believe a revolution will take place, and eventually, we will open up trade with Cuba again. We used to have a trade embargo against China, and they are still a communist country. However, they have changed some of their policies when it comes to human rights and treatment of their people. As they make more and more advancements in this area, America opens up more and more trade agreements. Here you should have Britain and France. Indian problems. The British also attacked Americans through the use of Native Americans. Once again, they ignored our neutrality proclamation. In the Northwest Territory, the British supplied the Native Americans with weapons and encouraged them to attack American settlers. It wasn't hard to convince the natives, as they were still upset at the loss of land and the Treaty of Greenville after the Battle of Fallen Timbers. Native Americans also began to join forces under Tecumseh and his brother, the Prophet. Their plan was to take back land from the settlers. They believed Native Americans had no right to sell land because it belonged to everyone. As you can guess, attacks turned into a full-scale battle between the Native American and United States military in the Battle of Tippecanoe in 1810. William Henry Harrison, a future president, led American forces into what became a short-lived battle. Harrison will use this battle as part of a campaign slogan when he runs for president. Tippecanoe and Tyler, too. In your blanks, up here you should have British, and then down here, military aid. Here you should have unite. Down here you should have no Indian. And then William Henry Harrison. And that ends your notes for part 2. Wasn't that simple?